Chair, I move an amendment to clause 3 regarding deleting the definition of Aboriginal child and substituting that with Aboriginal child or Aboriginal person instead. So this is from feedback that we have received from the Voice around the language, and most of the amendments that we are proposing to move here in this committee stage, Chair, are around language. Various functions in the bill have application to Aboriginal adults through reference to Aboriginal families, communities and organisations, and a proposed amendment to Clause 8 includes a reference to an Aboriginal person. Feedback from the State First Nations Voice to Parliament emphasised the importance of recognising family and community in the legislation. As I indicated at the close of second reading, this amendment is the first of a number of government amendments I'll be moving based on the advice and suggestions from the State First Nations Voice to Parliament. The Voice provided detailed feedback on the bill, a range of suggestions to support the best outcomes, and again, just want to reiterate my thanks to them for engaging in proposed amendments in a constructive manner, and I think they are sensible, and I move amendment number 1.
Stand in your name on 149, subclause 1. Okay. Member for Moriata.
Yes, sir. I will have a couple of questions on the amendment in a moment. I indicate
yes.
My gratitude to the Minister first in his second reading reply for engaging with some of the questions I posed in my second reading speech. Indicate that will probably save us some time during this committee stage. I won't re-prosecute those arguments that he addressed in his second reading reply. I'll talk to colleagues in the coming weeks between the houses, give some consideration to the argument that the Minister has put, which I'm sure will inform the position the opposition ultimately takes on the third reading of the bill in the Legislative Council. We can manage that then. It's a question of judgment in relation to the value of having a legislated office as opposed to one put in place under the usual arrangements in the Public Sector Act. However, so I thank the Minister for that, and as I say, that'll probably save us 10 or 15 minutes today. In relation to this amendment and the other amendments that are to follow, as the Minister has said, I think this is the first bill that I'm aware of that's come through the Parliament that has had amendments as a result of consideration by the First Nations Voice to the Parliament. And on that basis, and for the benefit of the House perhaps, I wonder if the Minister could explain the process of how that engagement worked in a practical sense.
Thank you, Member for Morialta. I'm very happy to do that. Although formal consultation on the bill occurred before the State First Nations Voice was fully stood up, if I could use that language, the Voice Secretariat was briefed on the bill by the Chief Executive of the Office, Kim Little, in July of this year, and indicated support for the work of the Office and the inclusion of functions in the bill in relation to Aboriginal children. Following the bill's introduction, the Voice provided a detailed response to the bill and sought further information about the work of the Office and, in particular, how Aboriginal communities would be engaged and Aboriginal perspectives incorporated into the design of the government's early childhood reforms. On the 24th of September this year, I, along with the Chief Executive of the Office for Early Childhood Development and the relevant staff of that office, met with the members of the Voice to hear their views on the bill and to share with them information about how the government's early childhood reforms would work to support the development of Aboriginal children. Following that meeting, the Office provided the Voice further information about operational aspects of the Office and policy design, including the role of an Aboriginal co-design governance group, and provide to oversee and provide high-level monitoring in regards to the early years policy reforms, such as Aboriginal 3-year-old preschool initiatives and the Aboriginal early childhood workforce strategy. The Office has expressed to the Secretariat its interest in engaging with the Voice about the design and delivery of the reforms, whether this may be sought or welcomed by members. As a result of the feedback submitted by the Voice, these are the amendments that I propose, or this is the first amendment that I propose to move to the bill.
Member for Morialta.
Sir, so to clarify, and I'm sorry I didn't take perfect notes as I was going, but there was a briefing provided by Kim Little in July to, I assume, the Secretariat of The Voice. Then there was the meeting the Minister and the Chief Executive had on, I think it was the 24th of September or thereabouts. And then there was the subsequent provision of follow-up information. So I think that's, I have that right. Can the Minister describe, when that meeting on the 24th of September, was that with the entire group of elected members of The Voice or a subgroup, a representative group? Can the Minister explain who the Minister met with and how that procedure worked?
Thank you, Member for Morialta. I'll describe it as a large proportion of the Voice membership, but basically those who could make themselves available were the ones who did.
In relation to the engagement with The Voice on this bill, is it expected that all bills that the Minister's dealing with, I know that there's one that he's dealing with on the list in relation to oversight and advocacy bodies, for example, and there may be other bills that are going through the process within the Minister's department at the moment. Is it expected that all of the Minister's bills will go through this process where there's a briefing to The Voice, an opportunity for a larger group to discuss it, or is it a selected bill, either of the Minister's suggestion or on request of the representatives of The Voice?
Member for Morialta. So obviously this was quite early in the existence of The Voice, so how it will work moving forward might be slightly different in the sense that there was a formal consultation on the bill before the State First Nations Voice was fully stood up, but moving forward from here, obviously they are fully operational and stood up, so I think the anticipation is that we will seek to consult with them on bills, including, I think the bill that you mentioned, though, that consultation may have occurred before they were stood up. But we will have them on the list to consult, and we will offer briefings, and then I would anticipate that they will let us know about whether or not they would take up the offer of that briefing or not. And if not, then we proceed on. If they do, then it would be a process similar to this one where, in terms of how I intend to operate with it, where I would ideally like to be part of that briefing, so I can do my best to answer their questions, but they get a chance to ask me questions directly.
Okay, the question before the chair is that amendment number 1, as in the name of the Minister, be agreed to. All those in favour say aye, those against say no. I call it for the ayes. The question before the chair is the clause 3 as amended now be agreed to. All those in favour say aye, those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Now, any questions on 4 and 5? No. Question before the chair is that clauses 4 and 5, as printed, be agreed to. All those in favour say aye, those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Clause number 6, Minister, I think you have some amendments.
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. So you do wish to move your amendments?
Block. For deleting promote and substituting it with drive in clause 6, which will encapsulate amendments number 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, I think.
6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is that correct?
Correct. So amendments 2 through to 6 to amend various subclauses of clause 6 to delete the word promote and substitute it with the word drive, which was a suggestion made by the State First Nations Voice to Parliament on A stronger term than promote should be used to convey a more active and assertive approach to the officer's functions.
Okay. Member for Moriata.
Thank you, sir. I should indicate in this context the opposition was made aware of these amendments this morning. I understand presumably they must have been looked at by Cabinet yesterday is my guess, and appreciate that. I'm not seeking to have a concern. I appreciate the effort the Minister's office has gone to at short notice to give me some information about these, and appreciate that. But I do indicate I'll obviously have a chance to discuss these amendments with my colleagues in between the houses, so if there are any concerns, we'll raise them at that stage in the Legislative Council on the merits, so I don't propose to go to the merits now. In relation to the discussion in how the voice has been interacted with in this way, my recollection is that the Commissioner for Aboriginal Children and Young People was one of the, I'm going to say, bodies is a person, of course. The Commissioner for Aboriginal Children and Young People had made representations to the first draft of the bill that informed the second draft of the bill, and I'm wondering, as she is also an elected member of The Voice, was she one of the advocates that spoke with the Minister on this occasion as well?
Commissioner Laurie was not at the meeting on 24th of September.
Okay. Member for Moriata.
When did the Voice provide the government with their formal feedback on their proposed amendments, and did the government accept all of their suggestions?
Thank you, Member for Morialta. We're trying to find the date, which I'm confident we will if we have a little bit more time, but I am reminded that we did not accept all the suggestions from The Voice. The ones that we are presenting here as amendments, the ones that we did, I think it was the 20th of September, I am told, was the date of the formal feedback being provided by The Voice, but I can also tell you that not all the feedback that was given has been accepted, and not all that is being proposed to be included in these amendments today.
I think I may just have one or two more final questions. So if that feedback was provided on the 20th September, that by my recollection is prior to the meeting the Minister had with the representatives of The Voice. So I'm wondering whether they had any further formal submissions after the meeting with the Minister. And the second question, I'll include it here and it may save us some time later, was, is there any publicly available document identifying The Voice's other suggestions to government on their full set of recommendations, acknowledging that the Minister's identified that not all were accepted by the government?
I'm advised that there was no further formal feedback provided by The Voice, and it's been characterised to me, I'm sorry, but I wasn't part of that communication between The Voice and the Office of Early Childhood Development, but I think what was characterised, what you would characterise as their earlier feedback was more questions around what would be the implications of how things would work, more so than them putting to us other suggestions around changes that we would actually make to the bill, if that makes sense. It's probably the best that I can characterise it.
Well, can I just clarify then, sir, the characterisation the Minister has just offered where there was a more informal approach from the Voice to the department of questions of clarifications and changes, it is that feedback to the department, am I right in saying that that has led to this set of amendments, but is it right then to characterise that there was other informal feedback given that did not lead to further amendments? Is that correct? Or is there indeed a letter or a memo or a submission of some sort that's come from the Voice to the department?
Thank you, Member for Morialto. I'm told there was just the one formal submission made by the Voice, and what followed after that was some back and forward between their members and the Secretariat around what the implications of that would be, but no subsequent formal submission, as I'm told, by the Voice with other suggestions or other requested changes.
Thank you very much for that clarification. My last question on this run is that formal submission publicly available either from the Voice or through the Department for Education or other processes?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member for Morialto. I'm told we, as a matter of course, have not published submissions from groups as part of these processes, but I think it would probably be a question for the Voice if they wanted to release that.
Question before the Chair is that amendments number 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, which seek to amend clause 6, as printed, be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Any questions on clause 7? No. Clause 6 as amended. Oh, sorry, clause 6. Question for the Chair is that clause 6 as amended be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Question for the Chair is that clause 7 as printed be...
No, that's a series of amendments as well.
Oh, that's amendments. Oh, okay. So I misread my cheat sheet. Okay. There's a series of amendments, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Are they seek to move as one or individually?
On block,
On
Chair,
block,
please.
So you formally move in those amendments?
Move amendments number 7, 8 and 9 and 10, 11 and 12, which are very similar to the amendments we made to clause 6 around deleting promote and substituting it with drive. For the reasons I set out in terms of the amendment we just moved to clause 6, and deleting should and substituting with will, and deleting promoted, including by promoting, and substitute driven, including by driving, and delete should be supported, including and substitute will be supported, including but not limited to, and amendment number 12, after the word children in clause 7, page 5, line 27, insert brackets, including any developmental trauma, close brackets.
Member for Morialto.
As I said before, we'll have a closer look at these between the houses.
Chair is amendments number 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to amend clause 7, be moved by the Minister. I'll be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Clause 7 now as amended be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Clause 8, any questions? On 8? Oh, somebody's written it down there. Okay, yeah. You have an amendment.
I do. Thank you, Chair. I move amendment number 13, standing in my name, clause 8, page 5, after line 37, insert, which would be 2A, without otherwise limiting subsection 2, at least one member of each committee must be an Aboriginal person. That is feedback, of course, from the Voice around making sure that there is Aboriginal representation on any committees that might be formed under this bill by the Chief Executive or the Minister, and ensuring that there is Aboriginal representation on that committee.
Member for Morialta.
So just a question of clarification in relation to the nature of committees that this will impact. So I guess my question is, are there committees already in existence in the office as it's currently constituted that will carry over into the new legislated office and will therefore immediately attract this expectation? And are there other committees that the Minister envisages being covered by this clause and indeed the amendment as well?
Morialta, I am informed, with the exception of MECAF, when the member for Morialta is familiar, the Minister's committee that I have established, Childhood Advisory Forum, Early Childhood Advisory Forum, which would fall under the purview of this amendment and need to make sure it has Aboriginal representation. That is the only existing committee that would be affected.
I suspect I know the answer to this question, but within public service departments there are from time to time committees that tend to get formed of a somewhat informal nature, meeting regularly. The same public servants who have a particular functional capacity might be meeting on a weekly or monthly basis with the Minister or indeed the Chief Executive to undergo consideration of certain operational duties. Can the Minister clarify that it would be not the expectation of the bill that this clause would capture such operational informal committees, if you like, but just those formally constituted for a specific purpose in the way described in the bill?
Yes, I can confirm that.
That's it. Okay. Question before the Chair is that amendment number 13, in the name of the Minister, to amend clause 8 be agreed to. All those in favour say aye, those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Now,
Clause 8 is amended.
yeah, okay. The question before the Chair is that clause 8 as amended be agreed to. All those in favour say aye, those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Clause 10. Question before the Chair is clause 9 as printed be agreed to. All those in favour say aye, those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Clause 10, member for Morialta.
As discussed in the second reading, clause 10 sets out the powers of the Chief Executive to ask other state authorities to provide information. The operation of the office as it is at the moment without this legislative power, can the Minister advise if there are examples that he is aware of the need for this power? Are there examples where the Chief Executive of the Office for Early Childhood has requested information from other government instrumentalities and they have not provided that information as requested without requiring this power?
Member for Morialty, I'm told no, there hasn't been a situation thus far where one of those bodies that has had information requested of it by the Office for Early Childhood Development has needed to use or use those powers.
Is the Minister aware of any examples of government agencies or departments under his authority who have requested information of this, in the way that this clause describes, of another government department and not being provided with it?
Thank you, Chair. The answer, the best answer I can give the member for Morialty is not to our knowledge. We are trying to seek a more detailed answer by checking with the Chief Executive of the Office for Early Childhood Development about whether that might have been the case, but at this stage the answer is no. I might just add that in communications between the Office for Early Childhood Development and the Education Standards Board, I believe the Education Standards Board made some feedback as part of the consultation of the bill for some suggestions around the strengthening of some clauses to make sure that they had the legislative cover to provide the information that might have been needed, and I understand that was accepted. It hasn't been included in the bill to make sure they are comfortable, but with that exception, we're not aware of any cases where information was requested by the OECD to another department and they said that they weren't willing to give that, but I believe we are working. I'll happy to come back to you as soon as we have an answer on that, if that is okay.
Providing that answer, perhaps can I ask if the driving motivation behind this clause is actually to ensure the ESB has cover in providing information that they're not prohibited from otherwise providing under their Act, then that would make sense. If you could just clarify that, included in the same answer between the houses, I'd be most grateful, sir. I've no
Other questions? On that clause. Question before the Chair is that clause 10 as printed be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Next clause. Oh, okay. Clause 11.
So, notwithstanding the comments I made earlier, appreciating the Minister engaging with comments in my second reading speech, and that will save us some time here. So I'll just put a couple of quick questions through. Has the Minister received any feedback from organisations that were not supportive of the measures in this clause?
I am informed the answer is no, the only exception being the answer I gave to the member for Morialty's previous question around the ESB providing what could better be characterised as advice around how a clause could be strengthened to make sure they had the legislative protection to be a part of the information sharing that is required. Just to add, I have confirmation from the Chief Executive that there was no other groups that expressed displeasure or unhappiness, if I could put it that way.
Either now or, if the Minister prefers, in writing between the Houses, I'd be appreciative of a list of any agencies, non-government organisations or institutions that were given the opportunity or encouraged, requested to provide feedback on either the bill or my particular interest is in the current clause, Clause 11.
Between the Houses, thank you.
Okay, no other questions on 11? Question before the Chair is that Clause 11 as printed be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Next clause? No? No clause at all? Okay, the question before the Chair is that clauses 12 to 18 inclusive as printed be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Question before the Chair is that the long title as printed be agreed to. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. The bill and agree to some amendments. Minister.
I move that the bill now be read a third time.
Is that seconded? That's seconded. Any debate on the bill? There be none. I'll put that question before the Chair is that the bill be read a third time. All those in favour say aye. Those against say no. I call it for the ayes. Mr. Clark.
A bill for an act to provide for an office for early childhood development and for other purposes.